Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Courtney.
Hello.
So before we get started, we always want to remind you that you will find a few things in our description each week. You're going to find links to all the things we use for research. So if you want to read up on more articles, check those out, follow the links, and you can read a little bit more information. We also include links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you're not following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, definitely check out those links in our show notes and give us a follow. We definitely have constant information on there of breaking news, a ton of memes, and episode information. So you can find out when new episodes are coming out and when we put out new Patreon stuff. So that brings us to the links for our Patreon and Threadless that you will find in our show notes as well. So if you want to get access to bonus episodes and little merch items and stuff like that, you can become a patron on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/murderdictionarypodcast. You can also get large merch items like t-shirts and beach bags and all sorts of stuff on Threadless. murderdictionary.threadless.com. So we have a few new people on our Patreon this week, and we wanted to say thank you to Seth, Christian, Rebecca, and Diana.
Thank you.
So thanks, you guys. And we are going to be off next week because I will be on vacation. I'm going to Vegas.
Going to Las Vegas and coming back.
Eventually.
You're not staying. You got to come back.
Yeah, I'll be there an entire week, so we're not going to be able to put out an episode. But we are going to put out an episode on Patreon. So I've got a really, really fascinating story. It's such a good story that I'm kind of like, maybe I should have made this a regular episode because it's so good.
It is a good one.
Yeah, you read through that?
I did.
Pretty crazy.
I liked it.
So, new Patreon episode will be out while we're gone. So if you're missing a week of regular episodes, definitely check out our Patreon for the bonus episode. With all that said, I think we can get to our case for tonight. Yeah?
Yes. Sounds great.
So this week, Courtney researched Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson.
No one knows about this either.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone. Hey, did you know that Woody Harrelson's father's a hitman? Nope.
Yep.
What?
So we're still doing H for Hitmen, and Woody's dad was a contract killer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I vaguely heard that when around the time maybe like Natural Born Killers came out, or maybe like I was looking something up. I think I remember him saying like, oh yeah, well, I have some sort of relevant experience with this because of my dad. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And now we're about to find out.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting, I vaguely remember an interview, but I think I might have invented it, to be honest, in my head, because I was young. I mean, young enough that my mom was not going to be like, yeah, let's watch Natural Born Killers.
Right.
I know it was later that I remember sneaking to see this. So it's like, yeah, I was a little too little.
Yeah, I was too young too. But then later on, you know how you just discover things that you remember coming out that were just a little bit too gruesome for you?
Yeah,
where
he
you're
was
like,
just Woody the bartender to me. Because my grandparents, I was at my grandma's all the time and she watched Cheers.
Yeah. That's definitely the context in my head for Woody,
yeah.
Originally. And so when I heard about this movie, I was still young. But then later on, you come and revisit. And I looked it up and I remember seeing something, but it's kind of fuzzy.
When I think of him, though, he's still just like Woody from Cheers.
Yeah, well, now for me,
real.
He's got new context. I don't even see him as that anymore because of True Detective, because he's got this new Kevin Costner movie out or whatever
because
on
he's
Netflix.
Bald for me now, I think is the difference.
It's the hair change.
Could be a different person. If I take my glasses off, I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, things get
Bruce
really
Willis.
fuzzy.
It could be Bruce Willis.
They're kind of interchangeable, right?
Yeah. Michael Chiklis. The guy from Breaking Bad. What was his name? I always
Bryan
call
Cranston?
him Neil. No, the brother-in-law. I always call him Neil, but it's Hank.
Oh.
Aha, that's it. Where'd that come from?
So let's get to know Woody's dad
Let's.
a little bit. So Charles Boyd Harrelson was born on July 23rd, 1938 in Lovelady, Texas. The youngest of 6 kids to Void and Alma. I think it's weird that his dad's name is his middle name. Is that weird? I feel like you do that with grandparents as like this is your grandparent's name. But your dad, it's like, just call him Junior, right?
He's the youngest of 6. They probably just ran out of ideas. He's the baby.
They were crossing things off the list.
It's a family name. Throw it in.
Yeah, that makes sense. But to me, I was kind of searching for some sort of like, is his dad a narcissist? Is this some sort of early formation of murderous ways?
Maybe.
So he came from a law enforcement family. His father was a Texas prison guard, and 2 of his uncles were a prison warden and a detective. So long line of law enforcement. And we know the implications for that are a lot like similar to military, very strict, etc. So Charles left school and joined the Navy. Then in 1959, he moved to California and he became a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman.
Okay. Always reminds me of Jim Jones going door to door selling monkeys. Huh?
There's something inherently untrustworthy about a door-to-door salesperson.
Yeah.
And we see, I think, historically, a lot of people that murdered had that kind of job where they can basically kind of canvas an area and find victims, right?
You'd never see a shower curtain ring salesman door to door killing people. But, you know.
So Charles was married 4 times. The first time he was very young. It was right after the Navy, and he married Nancy Hillman.
This seemed like a teen marriage almost.
Kind of rushed, kind of maybe,
really,
was she pregnant or something?
Yeah, but I don't think she was. It was just like 18, 19 years old. He's in the service or like just out, just married.
Maybe there's something to be said about absence makes the heart grow fonder or
Couldn't
something.
find anything. Just young, like youth. That was the only thing.
So they moved to California, and he married Diane Lou Oswald in 1959, with whom he had his 3 sons, which are Woody, Brett, and Jordan. In 1960, Charles was convicted of robbery and sentenced to 5 years, but he only served 5 months because he cooperated as a snitch in another case. So Woody, the actor, was born in 1961, and he actually didn't know his father really well because Charles had disappeared from his family life in Houston, Texas in 1968. And Woody was only 7 years old at the time, so he really didn't have a close connection with him.
It's strange, too, because, again, like, he just kind of disappeared. Like, 3 kids, family, married, everything, and just basically went out for a pack of cigarettes. It's like, what is that?
Yeah, it's really common, I feel like.
It's extremely common.
It's weird.
And I don't get it, but I mean, aren't you curious? Don't you wonder?
Yeah.
But
what's going on with my kids?
I mean, we can say this about people we, today just as well as back then, but it's just the pack of cigarettes thing it's an interesting.
Well, one of the differences to me is that back then people could really disappear and like fully disappear.
Yes.
Where there's no forwarding information. You have no idea where they went. And it would just be years or decades before you ever heard anything. So it's not just like you walk out and then you share custody or, anything like that. You're gone.
Yeah, no, you're
never see
you're
them.
ghosting your family.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that these are people, most of these people that go out for cigarettes and never come back in this period of time, generally have a habit of leaving for days at a time already. Oh, we don't know when he's coming. He was gone for a month, right?
Right. Papa was Rolling Stone.
And rolled away, never came home for sure. That is such a good song.
But I also think that There's something to be said for the type of personality that it takes to just completely abandon your family and ghost them, like a lack of connection to other humans, which again sets you up for later being violent and not really caring about human life, you know?
I think about this every single time that I hear about, oh, this person disappeared, okay? I have nieces and nephews and things like this, all right? I can feel their energy right now, and I'm just like, where is that kid? What's going on, right? How do you not wonder who's got my kids? I don't have kids. I'm worried about your kids.
Right.
I'm like, how do you not wonder? What are they doing? Did they eat today? This or that? You really don't care. You are so like disassociated from caring. Because I'd be like, do they have shoes on?
Right.
I mean, come, you know, just.
Yeah.
I'd
every
be very
little
worried
life
about
event is just like, it's cold outside. Do they have jackets? Like,
who's picking them up from school?
Yeah.
Because if she's at work, right, or something, like, well, who's going to get my kids? There's nobody else. I know that because I live in the home.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He didn't have any connection, though.
None.
It was easy for him to just walk away.
3 sons, too.
Crazy. We weren't really able to find a specific date or event that made him become a hitman, but at some point, we know that Charles became a contract killer for the mob.
Yeah. Just like woke up. And this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, I think he did have that kind of Rolling Stone lifestyle. I'm sure he was like out drinking all the time, gambling, maybe meeting unsavory characters or whatnot. But he wasn't really working for them until this point.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, again, it's important to note that he just had no connection to people. He had no regard for human life because he once said that the human head is, quote, just a watermelon with hair on it.
It's a lovely statement.
It's got to be so crazy to just feel that way about another human. Because like you were saying, I mean, I can feel connections to people all the time. And he had none of that. Just completely cut off from any emotion. It was literally a watermelon. You know,
yeah,
like
know,
it really
right?
didn't matter any more than that. Like just being Gallagher or being a murderer, same exact thing to him.
Gallagher. The real Gallagher.
So his day job, if you could call it that, was being a card mechanic since he had this natural ability of cheating at cards since childhood.
I had never heard of this phrase, this card mechanic. I love it. I think it's great. It is such a good description that they fix the cards so that you see what they want you to see. Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay, cool. We're going to hear about it if it's wrong. I thought that was so interesting because he's just from youth. They mentioned it constantly throughout that he was cards, gambling, making money doing it. He was really good.
Yeah. In 1968, the same year that he abandoned his family, a carpet salesman in Houston named Alan Berg went missing. People said that Alan went out a lot, very similar to Charles, Rolling Stone type. And even though he had gambling debts, everyone knew that he would never just skip town. It was extremely mysterious when he disappeared, especially since he had 2 really small children and his wife was pregnant.
He is not going to go anywhere.
No.
Nobody thinks that about him.
Even though he has these similarities in lifestyle to Charles, he didn't have that watermelon personality, right? Like he loved his kids.
The watermelon personality.
You know?
Yes.
He was attached. And so it did seem extremely odd when he just never came home. He was never going to be the guy that people thought would just leave and buy a pack of cigarettes and never come home.
No, he stayed in town even with gambling debts, knowing like, oh, I got to see these people, but I'm going to.
Right.
He's not leaving.
He might lose a kneecap, but he's still
cool.
there with his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to push his wheelchair. It'll be fine.
So Alan's family searched for him extensively, especially his father, Nathan, who offered a $10,000 reward and hired a private eye named Claude Harrelson, who was Charles's brother, coincidentally.
I mean, can you write this stuff?
Seriously.
You can't. Because you would be like, this show sucks.
Right? Just
it's
like, that's
brother.
not true.
He's
I see
gonna
right
find
through
him.
that. Nope.
Ugh.
Charles' ex-girlfriend, Sandra Sue Attaway, came forward at this point and gave an eyewitness statement that she had been the one to lure Alan to a bar that was named the Brass Jar. And she had promised him that they would be having sex. But she was working for Charles, basically. She said that at the bar, her boyfriend forced Alan into his car, drove to a remote location, and shot him in the temple. But Alan survived the bullet wound, so Charles ended up strangling him to death.
That's awful.
Yeah.
You survived the bullet wound, right?
It's so gruesome.
So bad. Little
But
Sandy
Charles
Sue over here
could not care less.
Yeah. Luring people around. And like they found each other, like somehow, you know, because like people like that, especially if you've got someone willing to like lure a man to his death.
Yeah, she knew what was going to happen and was still like, yeah, babe, I'll do it.
Right?
No problem. I'll just, say, hey, dude, let's fuck. And then you'll kill him.
It's just.
What kind of person,
Think person that meets a guy at the Brass Jar.
Another watermelon person.
Are you familiar with the Brass Rail in Grass Valley, the oldest minor bar in town up there, that there's still a piss trough in the ground that runs outside into the street?
I am not familiar with that.
You've got to go. It's a quaint little bar where they serve pasties and shit like across the street because it's minor town. It's in Grass Valley, Nevada.
Yeah,
County,
I've
California.
spent, of course, a lot of time in Grass Valley like we've talked about.
Haven't we all?
However, it was mostly with my grandparents.
Yeah.
So they're more church people than piss trough people. So
I was staying in a teepee on that particular trip. So take what you want from that.
Your life.
It's been fun.
So the rumor was that Charles was hired by the owner of a rival carpet company for $1,500.
Where are we? The carpet companies are just
taking hits out on people.
Rival carpet
to get rid of competition. That's crazy.
Empire Carpet versus, like the other guy. I mean, what the hell?
Man. And this is just one more reason. Old-timey murders are the craziest thing to me.
The best.
None of it makes sense.
It makes no sense.
Right? Like,
none of it.
Oh, man. So even though that would be $11,000 today, it's completely insane that it was just a business rival to me.
Yeah.
That's just, wow. It was merely a coincidence that Charles happened to be the brother of the PI that the family hired to investigate the disappearance. 6 months after he went missing, Alan's body was found in a ditch in Texas. Harrelson was tried for the murder, and even though there were witness statements, he was still acquitted.
He is so lucky all the time.
He's one of those people that just fails upward. Is this another theme that we're going to see in Hitmen?
Yeah.
Failing upward?
This is Hitmen with a little tiny F next to it. Failing up and an arrow up. Failing upward.
Most people blamed the ineffective prosecutor for losing what everyone thought was a slam dunk case. So I don't understand how he wasn't convicted.
It was, he didn't have a bunch of people testifying against him. Nobody wanted to testify. So it was kind of like.
But so there were statements, but nobody got up on the stand, and that was damning.
You can't hold somebody responsible for something if they weren't willing to charge him with it and stuff. It couldn't make it stick.
Alan's brother David became a lawyer after the whole murder and seeing everything that happened with his brother's case and how it was so mishandled. And in 2013, he wrote a book called Run, Brother, Run, reflecting on Alan's life and how he was affected by the murder.
It's very good reviews.
It must have made a huge impact. Of course, seeing that when you're young, you're going to want to change the world, right?
Didn't affect him, though, until he was an adult working as an attorney. And then it was one day he basically just was hit by a truck, with these emotions and how it had affected him. And he realized, looking back, oh my God, my brother's death really did a number on me.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you just kind of push down and suppress until
he couldn't articulate it until he was an adult.
Well, I'm glad he had the book to just kind of process that, And he chose to do something positive and make a difference. I think that's really cool. In early summer of 1968, Charles was in Hearne, Texas, working with Pete Scamardo, who was a grain dealer and sometimes heroin trafficker.
He dabbles.
Part-time.
By the way, same year he's left his family. Again, we're in 1968. Big year for him.
I mean, maybe it was one of those things that was more difficult for him and he just had to do something crazy. I don't know.
He's just traveling. Like, he leaves his family and it's like he just jumps on and, goes to the Sandy Sue Attaway bar murder. And then once that ends, he just goes on to the next thing. And it's like, now we're in summer. That whole thing was in the spring. It's like crazy to me. It's all the same year.
So Pete moved drugs across the Tex-Mex border, and then Charles would distribute the products. In June 1968, Charles actually lost a shipment for Pete in Kansas City. So he put pressure on Charles and told him that basically he had to commit a murder for him to make it even. And the person that he wanted to put a hit on was Sam DeGilia Jr. Even though Pete was Sam's best friend since they were 8 years old, and Sam was a father of 4, Pete still paid Charles $2,000 to murder Sam on July 6, 1968.
That one sucks.
Again, it would only be like $14,000 today. It meant nothing to him. Human life was not sacred.
This guy knew him since he was 8 years old?
Mm-hmm. Entire life. Doesn't care.
Spent the night at each other's houses as kids, knew moms, knew grandmas and stuff, and still, it's crazy.
Police arrested Charles in Atlanta, Georgia in November of 1968 while he was driving Pete's wife's brand new car, which, of course, had been reported stolen. During the trial in 1970, witnesses placed Sam and Charles together. The getaway vehicle he fled the crime scene in was later found in 20 feet of water. Charles' girlfriend Sandra at the time gave damning testimony that corroborated multiple witness statements. Pete was convicted and sentenced to 7 years as Charles' accomplice. Charles went to trial, and his first trial actually ended in a hung jury. But when he was retried in 1974, he was sentenced to 15 years. So he's finally being held somewhat accountable.
Somewhat.
Still, it's 15 years. It's not, he'll get out before that.
And he's already gotten off on one.
Right.
This is the second murder.
It means nothing to him.
Nothing.
His sentence was shortened for good behavior, and he only served 5 years before being released. So he's murdered 2 people now, only done 5 years in jail. Charles was paroled in 1978 and then, of course, married his 3rd wife, Joanne Starr. He's always got a new girlfriend or new wife.
Absolutely. He's always got a woman working with him.
Yeah.
Somehow. It's part of the show, it's part of the con.
Shortly after, they moved to Las Vegas.
At Metro, the best deal in wireless is on. Switch to Metro and get 1 full Amazon Prime membership included every month. Plus, get 2 free phones from top brands like Samsung and LG with huge HD screens. All with 2 lines for just $90. That's the best deal in wireless, only at Metro. Plus sales tax and activation fee. Requires port in of eligible number not currently active on T-Mobile network or active on Metro in past 90 days. Limit 4 per account or household. Offer subject to change. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Amazon Prime has a $12.99 per month value. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.
So Charles could work as a professional gambler and pool shark. In 1979, Charles met a marijuana smuggler named Jamil, aka Jimmy Chagra, while he was playing cards. And Jimmy at the time was slowly but surely gambling away his fortune while, of course, filling Charles in on all of his life's problems. Basically, he was a glorified therapist at the gambling table.
Yeah, they drink and play cards and, talk about their lives.
And his life at this point was just not going very well.
Kind of a mess.
Jimmy's older brother, a lawyer named Lee, had been murdered in December of 1978. And Jimmy was supposed to attend the memorial very soon. The day after the memorial was scheduled, he was scheduled to appear in court before Judge John H. Wood Jr.
Badass judge. Like, that's what I just keep thinking. You know, you watch these court shows, like he's just going to walk in and there's going to be like some really awesome AC/DC song playing when he comes into the ring. It's intense everywhere that they talk about this guy.
Yeah, he did seem to kind of command this sort of attention. He had this presence about him, it sounds like. You know, he was that person. He was a judge even if he wasn't wearing his robe. You knew what the fuck he did, right?
Definitely.
Judge Wood had been nicknamed Maximum John for his reputation of spearheading the local war on drugs, and he was known for handing down lengthy sentences. So, of course, Jimmy was extremely anxious about his sentencing and really scared that he would be judged harsher because his brother Lee also had issues with Judge Wood. Jimmy tried to secure a lighter sentence by soliciting a family member to bribe the judge. But it was well known that Judge Wood would not be corrupted. No matter what the dollar amount, he just would not budge.
I read somewhere that somebody, I don't remember who it was, had offered him like $2.5–3 million or something, and he wouldn't take it.
Yeah, he was just that person. That
it was known.
Straight and narrow all the way.
Can't corrupt him.
Yeah. Jimmy decided that in revenge of his brother's death, and also to prevent himself from having his own day in court, he would pay Charles $250,000 to murder Judge Wood. And this is a huge leap from his previous jobs. Today, that would be $870,000.
This is the first payment that you're like, oh, okay, he's getting some money for these hits.
Yeah.
Because
and
before, it's like, what's he doing? Like paying a bill? Bill.
Buying a car, you know?
Putting a down payment on a car. Like not even, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that to me, the amount of money that jumps also kind of speaks of maybe he's been doing other jobs, working his way up, and then working his price up. And then once someone says, hey, I need this guy taken care of, he's like, well, I've done X amount of jobs. My fee is now gone up. It's X amount of dollars, you know?
He became friends with Jimmy. And I think also, you know, he tells him stories about what he's done and this and that. And you get to know the guy. And, you know, he just finagled his way in. And then once he's in, exploits his opportunity. And he's a con artist. And he's good at what he does. And I don't think that he thinks he's going to get caught ever.
No.
You know?
And history has definitely
He's
taught him
upwards.
that he can get away with things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He'll get out for good behavior. He's fine.
So Jimmy's wife, Elizabeth, delivered the money to Charles' wife's daughter, his stepdaughter, Teresa. And they arranged to have the murder done. Charles' wife, Joanne, bought a .240 Weatherby Mark V rifle, a high-powered weapon with a scope on it. I don't know anything about guns. It's the one area I'm lacking in. But this sounds scary to me.
It's a long-distance rifle.
Yeah, that seems like... Is he planning on sniping him or something?
From afar, yes.
I don't understand.
Yes. That's exactly what it implies with a scope on it as well.
Yeah.
That you're planning a sneak attack is what that's going to imply. Am I wrong? Tell me all about it. But that's what this is, the implication.
Yeah,
Anything
that's what I thought.
Scope. Come on.
Charles checked into the Townhouse Motel on Memorial Day weekend under the alias Bill Bannister. The morning of the killing was supposed to be Jimmy's court date, but the hearing had actually been delayed. They postponed it. Charles was not deterred from completing the mission, and he decided to still go through on the hit with the judge. Judge Wood walked out to the parking lot of his townhouse complex in Alamo Heights like he did every morning. But this morning was different because he noticed as he was walking up that he had a flat tire. As Judge Wood bent down to inspect his tire, Charles took aim and shot him in the small of his back. The bullet traveled upwards and got lodged in his chest. Judge Wood died on the way to the hospital. This was the very first time that a sitting federal judge was assassinated, which was extremely upsetting to so many people, including the former president, Richard Nixon, who said that he was outraged by the killing.
This was a really big deal.
Yeah, it was huge. The FBI called this the crime of the century and descended on San Antonio for an intense manhunt and investigation.
I don't think he realized kind of what he set off.
Yes.
For real.
It was all over the news, ton of media attention, a ton of law enforcement attention. And he was used to doing these small time things that, I don't know, not to minimize any murder or whatever, but they took this as a huge assault on the entire judicial, law enforcement, government. Like, it was everybody that felt attacked. So it wasn't just like when he was taking out other small businessmen or criminals or whatever that seemed to be more easily dismissed. This was big news. Wealthy San Antonio lawyers and businessmen came together and they bankrolled a $100,000 reward for any information related to the crime. The reward money led Charles' former cellmate to come forward after finding a piece of the rifle used in the murder. There was an extensive FBI investigation with more than 30,000 interviews and 500,000 pieces of evidence collected. That's crazy.
Huge.
The investigation costs a staggering $11.4 million, and at the time, it was the most extensive in the Bureau's history. And it was only second to the Kennedy assassination at this point.
That's insane. For the murder of this judge.
Yeah.
The second largest. $11.4 million.
But that's how much people thought that it was just this, if we let this slide, then people can just attack any government official or police officers or whatever. Doesn't it seem like that? Like making an example of this?
Yeah. And it's 11 million
back then.
In 1978.
Right.
1979 money.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
At the scene, bullet fragments were traced to a Weatherby Mark V rifle, the same as the one that was recently purchased by Charles' wife, Joanne.
Joanne, what are you doing?
Again with these women. Like, oh, what do you need the gun for?
He knew. He was smart. He always had a woman partner. He had a Bonnie. And then he would pin it on Bonnie.
Right. But also, not just pin it, but if you have another person involved, then they can get back to you by tracing the purchase, Like, they're going to find you.
He did not think they would find him.
Yeah. He truly believed he would get away with it.
Yeah, no, it's very clear.
So the money trail was eventually traced back to Jimmy Chagra. The FBI put him under surveillance and they recorded a phone conversation with his older brother Joe, who was also a lawyer. On the phone call with Joe, Jimmy discussed a contract killing as well as a jailhouse snitch. They were also able to get recordings of Charles discussing the killings.
The Chagra family is kind of an interesting side plot here. There's attorneys, drug kingpins. There's an entire book written just about the Chagra brothers and their experience that I'm thinking I might actually have to order. I can't remember the details. It's in here.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. It sounds like they just work both sides of the law.
Yes, right? Absolutely. And the way that the brother that was killed, he was murdered. And like I said, I was thinking about getting this book because I'm just intrigued by this. The other one was already killed. And their parents, there's a whole thing. It's a very interesting story. The Chagra brothers and their whole drug lifestyle.
Yeah. It seemed like they were just trying to take over the city from all angles, right?
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, the violence got a hold of them,
Yeah.
The investigation culminated in the arrests of Charles, his wife Joanne, Jimmy, his wife Elizabeth, and the lawyer brother Joe Chagra. When Charles was arrested for the murder of John Wood, he was on a serious bender.
Real life bender.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
He had been high on cocaine for days at this point, and he led the police on a high-speed chase until he was finally cornered by the officers. There was a long standoff during which he said many things, and he confessed to many crimes. And really, he was just trying to keep the cops from killing him right then and there, especially when everyone had this vendetta against him for taking out a judge. I think that he knew that the cops would they were trigger happy. They wanted to take him out.
Yeah, there's a direct quote from him that says that he knew what would keep him alive the longest, and that was confessing to all kinds of shit.
Right. And then they felt like they needed to have him to be able to just interview him, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have lived.
No.
One of these claims that he made was that he had actually shot JFK.
I love this one.
So we'll come back to this because I don't want to go in this conspiracy theory kind of tangent for too long before getting to the end of the case so we find out what happens, but we'll come back to that. Okay?
It's a rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah. So the first indictments came down in 1982 and the trial began in 1983. Joe pled guilty to conspiracy in exchange for a shorter 10-year sentence. Part of his plea stipulated that he would testify against all his co-defendants, except for his brother Jimmy. Joe was released after serving only 6.5 years, and he died in a car crash in 1996.
After all that.
Yeah.
Life works in mysterious ways.
Jimmy also took a plea bargain, and although he was the one that put the plan in motion, he was still acquitted for his role in the murder. It's just crazy to me that they had all that information and still he got away with it.
Yeah, and the Jimmy thing specifically was because his brother wouldn't testify against him.
Right. Yeah, because there wasn't that testimony from him, he got away with it. Jimmy received 30 years for drug trafficking charges and 10 years for the charges that were already pending at the time of Judge Wood's murder. Essentially, the charges that got Judge Wood murdered.
Yeah, good thing. Good thing we went through all this so you didn't have to get charged with any of that.
Right, so that he didn't have to go to jail.
Idiot.
By the time the remaining 3 trials started for Joanne, Elizabeth, and Charles, the courthouse had been rebuilt, and it was recently renamed the John H. Wood Jr. Courthouse after the judge that was murdered. That's so mind-blowing to me. So the remaining trials were also presided over by a judge who had been a pallbearer at Judge Wood's funeral. So at this point, all these things coming together, that there's no chance of them getting a fair, unbiased trial.
I don't think there's anybody in the state, though, that you
That's
can
true.
get. There's nowhere you can go. This was like a federal thing. The only way is you have to go to a different state. You can't stay in Texas.
Right.
But they want him in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, the defense requested a change of venue, but it was denied, which, of course, was extremely upsetting to the attorneys. But everyone else knew that they couldn't really get a fair trial anywhere.
Nice try, but denied. Big red stamp.
Elizabeth Chagra received a 30-year sentence, and she died in 1997 in prison of ovarian cancer, and she was only 43 years old. Joanne was sentenced to 25 years combined for obstruction of justice, and she later paroled. But the trial that everyone was waiting for was the alleged murderer himself, Charles Harrelson. The media was talking about him like he was the boogeyman. It's what it seems like to me. All the quotes about him, about how scary he is, and
yeah, they built that up a lot.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm sure, some of it's true. I believe that. But it was a lot of this is why we have to convict him. This is why we have to get him.
He was well known for using aliases, disguises, and alibis to get his victims, then evade detection. By this point, the FBI had plenty of documentation about his murderous activity, and a retired federal prosecutor said he was good at what he did. Which again sounds like a Ted Bundy judge thing. Like, just don't say that. Just don't say someone's good at murder. It sounds like you kind of admire him.
Well, here's my thing about this is he says he was very good at what he did. But Bill Bannister, the alias at the hotel, they did a little research, a little searching around. It's the same alias he used at other hotels and other places.
Oh.
So it's like, if you had used a different name, you dumbass, you stupid person who's working as a hitman, not using alias. Like, I just don't know why you'd use the same name twice in any situation whatsoever if you're doing this. This is your job, right?
Yeah, why not have a new identity every fucking day?
Just a thought.
Especially if you have so much money.
If you're so very good at what you do, right?
Chagra's attorney was Oscar Goodman, who was then a public defender, but he would go on to be the mayor of Las Vegas.
Are you familiar with who this is?
I am not.
Oh, okay. Are you serious?
No.
You're Miss Las Vegas.
I know.
I put this in specifically for you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm upset. No. So this guy, he's like the smarmiest motherfucker. Like, I'm sure he's a lovely person.
You mean he's a Las Vegas mayor?
He is the mayor, the former mayor of Las Vegas. No, and I think his wife is also political. I want to say she's the current mayor or some shit like that. Like, it's crazy. He's very slimy. He's very smarmy. But there's this quality about him that you're like, I could have Jack and Coke with you at the Rio, right? You could do Vegas stuff with him.
Right.
But I don't think you'd want to do any other non-Vegas things with him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I had no idea he was an attorney, let alone defending Woody Harrelson's dad, the hitman. Like,
yeah.
Wait, what? And he has such a way with words.
Yeah, and not only is he an attorney, but he's a public defender.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there's something about that to me that seems almost admirable.
I agree completely. I had no idea about that. And when I realized that, I was a little like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Like, the slimiestness of him wasn't as bad.
It went down by like 2 notches.
Yes. I remember some reality show, naturally, some trash television I was watching. And he's standing in front of the Welcome to Las Vegas sign talking about it. Oh, I think it's Girls Next Door. I think it's the Girls Next Door. And they're in Vegas and it's the 3, Bridget, Holly, Kendra. And I think it was something with that. And he's on it with there and he's just icky.
Huh.
Okay. Am I making this up? It's possible.
It sounds good to me.
I'm telling you.
I like it and I'm going to run with
archives. This is a seizure memory coming out right now. I think I might be right. The look on my face is like, I'm shocked I could be right.
Yeah. Your expression right now is just shock and pride and just
It's
like, I nailed it, but I have no idea if I'm right. Yeah.
I did. I think I did. Anyway.
I'm completely unfamiliar with him and I feel really bad because you're so excited.
I'll find the clip when I get home. I'll find it and send it to you.
So Oscar, the, future mayor, was so struck by Charles that he described his features by saying he had the most unusual eyes I've ever seen. They were robin's egg blue and you couldn't see his pupil.
Well, that's generally from drug use. Like pinned pupils. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. But also, I think that it speaks to the way that people were really had this perception of him. I think sometimes you see what you want to see, right? So
Yes.
if you're going into it like this is a mass murderer, then of course you're looking at his eyes like, let me find evil in there, But that's the kind of quotes that you would find about him.
The other thing that I find interesting about Charles is every picture of him, he looks like a different person. Very good at just shape shifting.
You mean in like a Ted Bundy way?
Yes and no.
Like he looks exactly the same, but now he has a mustache?
But now he's got a different haircut. Oh my God, that guy. I swear to God. Like, just do a comb over right, do a comb over left.
Right.
Semi-perm.
It's the exact same fucking person.
I'm so tired of this.
But
so
I think that's the thing is like, we think of people being good at disguises just because they make minimal changes.
So
like maybe this is a tangent, but like we basically stay the same as people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like girls are like, it's the end of the world if you get bangs, right? Like I'm a completely
if you get bangs,
different
you're
person.
going through something serious.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that speaks volumes about how we don't really change our appearance a lot. So it does seem striking if Charles or Ted, you know, mustache, no mustache, beard, short beard, long beard, round hair, comb over, you know, it's slight differences, but most people don't change that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everybody's dad has the same haircut that they had 20 years ago, right?
pretty much.
So it's kind of weird, especially for someone of this era to change their look so much.
Yeah, there's a couple pictures. There's like the one picture that most, you know, if you think of it, is what you think of. But then if you look at other pictures, he does not look the same. It's very interesting. That's all.
Charles was 45 by this time, and he seemed pretty unbothered by the trial. He was cracking jokes the whole time, passing notes to reporters, and making fun of the DA, Sam Millsap, to his face. He oftentimes called him Sam the Sap. And, I mean, he's just never been held accountable, so why would he think that this is anything but a joke?
He's having a great time.
It doesn't matter. He'll, you know, maybe get found guilty, but then he'll just serve 5 years. That's what he thinks is going to happen.
He's cracking jokes. Like, he just figured, you know, he's going to go see some friends for a few years and get out and be fine.
Right. Probably.
If he even gets convicted.
He'll probably network.
Yeah.
It'll be a business opportunity for him.
When he comes out, he'll have a job in Florida.
Right. At one point, he was asked what his profession was, to which he replied that he had been, quote, making tapes for the government. Basically cracking a joke referencing when the FBI had been wiretapping and bugging him, creating the tapes that were used against him at trial.
That's pretty funny.
I'm just making tapes for the government. That's what I do.
That was pretty good. I laughed at that.
Like, I don't necessarily like the guy, but that's probably my favorite quote from the entire thing.
Sounds like a joke Woody the bartender might make.
Yes. During his trial, Charles claimed that he didn't kill Judge Wood, and he had just said he'd done so that he could get the money, the $250,000 from Jimmy. So, according to his account, coincidentally, someone else killed the judge, but he just said that he had done it so that he could get the money.
Has this ever worked?
What did he think was going to happen? Right?
That Bill Bannister would be convicted? I don't know.
Is this the like Hitman equivalent of my dog ate my homework or something?
I was asleep at the time.
Right.
That is still my favorite on like cop. Anything where you show up on someone, right? Where were you at this time? Oh, I was asleep at the time. Like, that's my favorite excuse.
The real problem was that Charles had told too many people about what happened, including Joe, who testified that Charles had told him himself that he had killed Judge Wood.
And you know he was telling the truth because he wouldn't testify against his brother, but only these motherfuckers. So he's an attorney himself. Like, I trust Joe Chagra.
Even though he's a dirty attorney?
Yeah, I don't know why. There's something to his testimony that rings more true. And then he died in a car accident once he got out for all that testimony.
Read that book and then tell me the same thing.
This book is going to be good. And I can't wait to tell you I'm wrong.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Charles received 2 consecutive life sentences plus 5 years.
Didn't work out so well for you,
Was the
Charles.
5 years going to make a difference? That's what I always think.
No.
He's never getting out.
It's got to be a technicality.
So that's the story of Charles Harrelson. But like I said earlier, there is a JFK conspiracy connection. So we're going to jump back into that before
Put on
we
your
sign
tinfoil
off.
hats because this one.
I never take mine off, Courtney. Okay? I'm offended that you don't think that.
Oh.
You can't see it?
No, not currently. But it's about to come back out.
Like I said before, he had made many claims when he was apprehended, including his confession to participating in the assassination of JFK. He later said that he was, in fact, just telling tall tales. And he knew that this was the only thing that would keep him alive as long as possible. Even though he admitted it was a lie to buy himself time, since he had already made the claim, people ran with the story. And it seems like they kind of tried to fit him in as a puzzle piece to the assassination.
I mean, we know already about conspiracy theorists, and one of their favorites It's like Elvis, the moon landing, the JFK assassination.
Yeah, that's the holy trinity right there.
That's it. I think I did it. I think that's it. And so anything related to this, people are going to just hook, line, and sinker this.
Run with it. In 1988, he told producers of a JFK documentary that on November 22nd, 1963, I was having lunch with a friend in a restaurant in Houston, Texas, and that he was smart enough to know that he would never have accepted a contract like that, or he would have ended up like Oswald, killed by the mob.
You see, he was too smart for all of that.
Right.
Like, that's what he's trying. I was too smart to take that job. From your prison cell, you're telling us this.
Yeah. Another hitman characteristic. Just bragging,
with
talking too much. Yeah. So there's several angles to this conspiracy. Some believe that Charles Harrelson is the smallest of the three tramps who was arrested at Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963. However, in 1992, Dallas police revealed the names of those three tramps and none were Harrelson.
Surprise.
Shocking. Some believe that Charles Harrelson is one of the two men believed to be the shooters from the grassy knoll. Hardcore believers will say it's all Photoshop, but these are the facts. Courtney's throwing up her hands right now.
I did. Those are the facts. It's the truth.
I feel like there's got to be a whoosh on the microphone for how your hands came up in the wind.
We're going to need sound effects eventually.
There's a picture of the three being walked out, and the belief is that Charles is the man in the middle.
When I did all this and included and sent my notes to my dear co-host Brianna, I thought it was so funny because when you look at the pictures, they're not him. Like, it's not him. But then, again, he looks different in all these pictures. So that's what people write on. It's like, well, he was a shape-shifting face changer. And the Illuminati, right? It's like, if you believe one, you got to believe it all, right?
He doesn't have an invisibility cloak. Like, what is this, Harry Potter?
That makes way more sense than anything else. Like, that makes sense. Like, Quidditch is real. I swear to God. Because this makes no sense.
So that's kind of the full extent of the JFK connection.
It's a rabbit hole for sure. If you really are just like looking to have a new angle on the JFK conspiracy, look into this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's shorter than the Cliff's Notes version. It's just a couple little facts. So
but you got it just fine.
But you got to mention it because it was just so crazy and people ran with it.
Yeah,
you know?
And depending on like the way the wind blew, he would either accept it and be like, yes, that was me. Or, no, I was eating lunch in Houston.
Right.
It just depends on who he wants to talk to.
Yeah. And I think to him, a person that just doesn't care and he's got nothing to lose, I mean, why not? I mean, he's not buying himself time at this point, but he's making himself seem more interesting, you know?
Something
some street
do.
Cred in the murderer world or something.
Do.
Yeah.
2 life sentences plus 5 years. You can spend 5 years at least, talking about JFK.
It's just boredom, I think. He just went back and forth with it. So with all that said, let's get into Woody and Charles' relationship. So it wasn't until 1981 that Woody heard on the radio about the upcoming murder trial of Charles V. Harrelson. And he kind of felt like there was a connection there. He wanted to look into it. So he asked his mom, is there any relation for Charles and us? And she told him, yep, that's your dad.
And again, his dad left when he was 7. So nothing for decades, nothing. 7 years old until 1981.
There was no way for him to know. That's crazy.
And I imagine like the way that, maybe, you're from Texas. So maybe you're home, you see a newspaper, you keep up with Texas news or something. And then you just happen to see the name and you're like, this could be my dad, actually. Right. Maybe, because maybe you think it and you're like, that's crazy. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. I'm not insane. Like, this could be, oh, shit. And then you got to ask your mom. And then she tells you, no, you aren't crazy. This is your father.
I wonder if he even knew that his dad's name was Charles. Because it sounds like he's coming to her completely blind. Like, hey, he has the same last name as us. So,
well, Void is a family name.
Yeah.
So he's probably seen void written down other places too. So when you see Charles V. Harrison and you're like, V, oh, this is my last name. Maybe it all just came together.
Yeah.
They didn't have ancestry, but.
So this was the point when he found out from his mom that he thought about reconnecting with his estranged father. And over the next few years, they rebuilt their relationship. In January of 1987, 49-year-old Charles got married for the fourth time to 38-year-old Gina Adele Foster. And this time, his son, Woody, stood in for him as a proxy in the jailhouse wedding.
That's just a weird note, by the way. To
So
me,
awkward.
my personal opinion.
Yeah.
This is strange.
Did he have to kiss the bride?
I
What is
looked
that?
high and low, saw nothing about that. Tried to find it. I'll tell you the truth. I tried. Nothing. Like there's pictures.
Why do you need a proxy? I don't understand.
I don't either. And I don't. And there was nothing that was like a rational reason why.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I accept this, I guess. He was a proxy at a jailhouse wedding.
Perfect sense.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Like, I just accepted that because this whole thing is insane. Woody the bartender standing in at his father's prison jailhouse wedding. And her name is Joanne Starr, which anytime I'm just immediately going to that chick that married Charles Manson. You know, at the end. Starr.
This was Gina Adele Foster.
I know, she's someone else. But they're all the same, I swear to God. It's like...
They are kind of interchangeable.
I know. And she looked like her, too.
Who was the lady with Stephen Avery? It's the same woman. You know what I mean? It's the same three women that are circulating through the jails.
Her name is going to... I'm going to be going pee or something in an hour, and I'm just going to be like, Haba! Like, remember her name. So close the door or something.
In 1988, during an interview, Woody said that he was regularly visiting his father in federal prison. And he expressed mixed feelings about his dad. He said, quote, "My father is one of the most articulate, well-read, charming people I've ever known. Still, I'm just now gauging whether he merits my loyalty or friendship. I look at him as someone who could be a friend more than someone who was a father."
I get that.
Yeah, I think he kind of felt like he was an interesting character, a cool person to talk to, but as far as a deep connection, a fatherly connection, love, like, I don't know if that's possible with someone like him. You know?
I would bet that there's a lot of him too that's still like a hurt little boy whose dad left him. So it's easier to think of him as his uncle, maybe.
Right.
Or, you know, like the nice guy down the street that we were family friends with. And, you know, you don't expect a lot. You don't go to a dry well looking for water.
Yeah.
You know he is not capable of giving you what you need. So you take him for what he is. He's just a cool guy to talk to who says some crazy wild shit sometimes. We love him anyway, whatever. You know, we all know that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that's his attitude.
I think
Definitely.
it's healthy.
Yeah, I think if he was too connected to him, and like you said, I mean, going to the wrong place to get what wasn't possible, then it would have been unhealthy. You can't really expect his dad's going to be a loving person and really care about him, you know?
Yeah, and he's got like daughters and lives on Hawaiian Island with his wife of 30 years or something. Like, Woody Harrelson's done fine.
Yeah.
All things considered, right?
Yes.
I mean, Jesus, it could have been crazy.
After an escape attempt from the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, Charles was transferred to a Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado in 1995. When he was sent to Supermax, Charles said, "There are not enough hours in a day for my needs. As a matter of fact, the silence is wonderful." So he's kind of just happy being alone, doing his own thing.
Seems fine with it.
I wouldn't be. I mean, there's so many studies about how like solitary or like super confinement makes you crazy.
He seems to be fine with it though. Like thriving almost.
Yeah.
It's strange.
In 2003, Jimmy Chagra was released from prison and went into the witness protection program. He recanted his statements and he claimed that someone other than Charles Harrelson had killed Judge Wood. Jimmy assumed the identity of James Madrid and got married for a third time in Mesa, Arizona, before passing away in 2008 at the age of 63.
It's another reason why I think that book might be interesting. Going into witness protection program, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Recanting his statements. There's a lot there.
I was thinking in my head, there's a lot there as you said that.
Yeah.
All the Courtneyisms are sinking into my brain.
It's
There's a lot
happening.
there.
I know. Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. Oh, I like it.
Because Jimmy recanted in 2003, Woody claims that he spent upwards of $2 million on legal fees in an attempt to secure his father a new trial. Completely based on the one recanting. I don't know. He hired Alan Dershowitz, famed member of OJ's Dream Team, to assist in his retrial request. Charles Harrelson was found dead in his cell on 3/15/07 from a heart attack, and he was 69 years old. When he died, he left multiple bundles of paper for his 3 sons, begging them to publish his life story to finally prove his innocence and clear his name, even after his death. He also confesses to involvement in dozens of murders in the early 1960s. So either way, he's still a killer, even if he didn't kill Judge Wood, according to his claim.
What motivates you to spend $2 million to try to secure a retrial for someone who is clearly guilty?
And already confessed to so many other things.
Yes. Is it... I mean, I don't want to I don't know. I feel kind of bad, but it's like, it just seems almost clear to me, like I will buy my father back.
Right.
Or his not affection, attention, because he's in prison, but the connection.
Yeah, he's still his dad.
Yeah.
Even if he looks at him as more of a friend or whatnot, just kind of this companionship, talking or whatever, it's still someone that he's going to have some sort of deep love for because that's the person that he needed when he was a kid. So there's just this need to have him in his life.
And he just goes straight to Dershowitz.
Yeah.
And he just takes the money, like always, and just does the job.
No matter how impossible it is.
No matter how ridiculous it is. He'll never tell you, no, you shouldn't spend your money on this.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I think, it's like, if I'm putting myself in Woody's position, I would think that my dad is where he needs to be. Even if it wasn't the judge that, let's say hypothetically, he didn't kill the judge. He's still in the right place.
Yes, I agree.
Like, he obviously did so many awful things that we don't even know about, only the FBI knows about, that he needs to be in jail. He needed to be in Supermax.
He's on camera escaping from prison as well. So it's like, stop. Come on.
Do you know the details of how he escaped? I always find those things fascinating.
It was a window.
Oh, man.
You know what's funny?
Was it a losing weight Ted Bundy thing?
No, it wasn't like that. But what's really funny is I had a whole thing and I took that out because I was like, oh, I don't think that's a big deal. And now I'm just like, are you serious? You're looking at me saying, because that always interests me. For real?
I think prison escapes are so crazy.
I do too.
And it's another one of those things that you don't necessarily see in present day. It is an old-timey murder kind of thing. And it's, getting less and less prominent because we've developed all these other tactics to secure the prisons.
I don't know if you're familiar with me or not, but I like details.
Right.
I'm like, what did you eat? How did you eat it? What did you eat first? Did you use a fork or a knife? Right? Like, I want to know. So, of course, I'm like, yeah, I want to know about this.
Yeah.
Of course, I have short-term memory loss, so I believe it was a window. I can tell you this for sure when I get home. I'm going to tell you all kinds of things when I get home.
It might have been the girls next door.
Maybe. Oh, my God. I hope that I'm right. I'm going to be really excited.
Yeah, I think that there's just so many details in that story already that you may have just skipped over it because it's just like, the kind of tangents that are in this case. You know what I mean? You've got these multiple murders. You've got the conspiracy theory thing. You've got, all these different lives. That's another thing about older cases that I find so fascinating is it really, especially for the Rolling Stone type, the people that are career criminals, They are starting a life here, moving to another state and abandoning the kids, then marrying another woman, starting a new career, then moving to another place. Now I'm in drug trafficking. Now I've got another girlfriend, you know, a new Bonnie. It's just so often that you see these pop-ups. You're just setting up these murder pop-up shops.
Wherever he left his hat was his home. And when he died, all he left us was alone. It's the truth. Mm-hmm. Every time. Check it off. Just check him off the box. Yep. Is it a serial killer? Did he wet the bed? Did he, beat animals? Was he a contract killer, left his whole family and then moved on and had no issues?
He was the watermelon guy.
Watermelon with hair on it. It was a direct quote. This was also when he was in trial, like trying to talk shit and be funny, is when he made that statement about being a watermelon with hair on it. He said all kinds of shit. I'm pretty sure it was he went out a window. I think it was.
So that's the story of Charles Harrelson, Woody's dad.
That's it.
Yep.
He was a hitman.
So we're going to have one last hitman story that I'm almost done with. So that's going to be not next week, but the week after. And in the upcoming week, if you miss us, definitely check out our Patreon because we're going to put up an episode there. And it is one of my favorite stories, I think, since I've been doing Murder Dictionary. So I'm excited for this Patreon episode. So definitely check it out.
It is going to be good because I honestly hadn't even really heard about it. I was excited.
So we want to say thank you to our new people that are on our Patreon. So thank you to Seth, Christian, Rebecca, and Diana.
We know you have a choice when you listen to podcasts, and here at Murder Dictionary, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much.
So if you want to join our Patreon and listen to that bonus episode, check out patreon.com/Murder Dictionary Podcast. Cool?
Cool.
And then you'll find further links in our show notes if you want to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you could just check out Murder Dictionary Podcast and all of those platforms. And keep up with us while we're out of town, while I'm in Vegas meeting the mayor.
I'm telling, I wonder if he has an office there still. You can go straight to his building.
Yep.
Probably off the spaghetti bowl. Some horrible traffic for you. Terrible. That place is insane with traffic.
So we will see you in a couple weeks, and be good to each other. Have fun. Go to Vegas.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
All right. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Today only at Kohl's. Shop new Sunday-only Black Friday deals unlocked. Plus, take an extra 20% off. Plus, get $10 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. Plus, snap a free picture with Santa at Kohl's today from 1 to 3 and get a free gift. Kohl's. 20% offer valid November 1st through 6th with promo code FALL20. Some exclusions apply. One gift per child.